Sean, I'm going to go to you with story number 2. This story is coming out of MarketWatch. I'll read you the headline, first couple graphs, and then I'll ask you to comment. Headline: UBS has released its annual home price bubble report. Here are the most overvalued markets. And I'll read you the first couple graphs. Sean, the housing market is in something of its own recession as mortgage rates have surged. If the economist's consensus is right about existing home sale report due later in the morning, then sales will have fallen 28% from their peak. That's why the arrival of the 7th annual UBS Global Real Estate Bubble rings different, coming at the start of a period of retreat rather than during a wave of excess. And here's a quote from the report says, the willingness to pay for owner-occupied homes is likely to take a hit. In cities with strong population growth, such an adjustment could manifest in the form of prolonged stagnation and nominal purchase prices. But as real estate markets rarely trend sideways, this is not most likely the outcome, said the report. Now could just continue on. Story says, since UBS report is a global one, just 5 U.S. markets are analyzed: Miami, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Boston, and New York. The bad news, all 5 are overvalued. The good news is none of the 5 is called a bubble risk, save Miami. The other cities have been seeing strong growth in prices. As a nationwide average, UBS points out, and income growth has been exceptionally strong, though strained affordability will likely start taking its toll, the report cautions. John, what's your first take on that?
Yeah, this is for all the bubble deniers who basically say there's no bubble here because of supply and demand. This is how things go. It's normal that our market is valued the way it is because of the limited supply and incredible demand from people coming here. This reminds me of 2006 when the bubble deniers were in full force, and we saw what happened after that. It's just a reminder. And now we have this report, this global report that basically puts Miami on the top 10 most overvalued markets in the world.
In the world.
So not just up alongside Zurich and Singapore and other markets like that. I think it's a bit of a red flag. And the fact of the matter is this market has been distorted by COVID. It's been distorted by the Federal Reserve's wacko interest rate policies. It's been distorted by all kinds of forces that make it really an abnormal market. Miami is not a normal market. And that's how we ended up on this list.
And let me fill in the audience as to what the list says. So basically the way they rate it is starting at 0, going to 0.5. So 0.5%, 50 basis points effectively. That would be called fair market value. Then anything would be overvalued based on their index. If it goes from 0.5 to 1.5, then anything is greater than 1.5 would effectively be called bubble. And let me give you some of the cities and what the ratings are. Remember, 0 to 0.5 is the fair market, and then effectively 0.5 to 1.5 is overvalued, and over 1.5 is going to be bubble. So Toronto is coming in at number 1. They're 2.24. And then you'll have Frankfurt at 2.21, Zurich 1.81, Munich 1.8, Hong Kong 1.71. The first city in the United States to make the top 10 globally, according to UBS, will be Miami at 1.39. So we're overvalued. We're not yet bubble, but we're overvalued. Second city in the United States to come in would be at Los Angeles at number 11 at 1.31. And then we will run it to another city in the United States, Boston, number 18 at 0.75. So slightly overvalued. New York comes in at 0.57, effectively par, if you will. John, I'm just wondering what makes Miami different in terms of the representing this overvalued, possibly on the brink of bubble versus maybe some of these other cities. And some would say it's international, but Los Angeles is international. Boston's international, so is New York. So what do you think the difference is with Miami versus some of these other cities?
We have the crypto.
Not
bros.
Anymore.
Yeah, all those guys have disappeared. The ETH people, they've disappeared. We had an influx of tech people with a lot of money coming from the West Coast, a lot of crypto bros, the NFT crowd, the metaverse people, and plus Latin Americans fleeing. Basically, Latin America's tilting leftward. A lot of leftists have been elected in South America, and people are clearing out of these countries. And I think it shows up in some of the surveys that the Florida Association of Realtor does. I just saw one today. The number 1 countries searched origination search on for Florida real estate, Colombia's right up there, Venezuela. It's all these folks basically moving their money to South Florida. And that's historically true. But you've combined that with just this crazy interest rate environment and COVID. And we've brought forward a lot of people from the Northeast who might have moved here in the next 5-10 years. They all moved down at once. So that created a huge demand and just distorted the market. So Miami is an unusual market, but it's completely distorted. And I think things are going to shake out in the next year or two.
Now, Eric, I want to go to you, but before we do, let me just tell the public, Dubai, anybody who's ever been to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates is a place where a lot of construction is constantly going on. They're actually coming in at number 24 for context. Number 24, they're 0.16. So you can see that difference. Miami's much more at risk than, according to the UBS study, than you would find a place like Dubai, which I think a lot of people would assume is going to have a lot of speculation.